Good morning. Happy Wednesday. I'm out here in my outdoor office and it's a beautiful day and not hot yet, but I know it's coming. I love a good second cup of coffee. So it's good to be with you again on a Wednesday morning, and like I've been doing for the last several weeks, I'm going to take a few minutes this morning and to look at another branch of the Christian family tree. We began with the Roman Catholic Church because that was the church once upon a time, and then that branched. So you had Roman Catholicism and the Eastern Orthodox Church, and then there's the Lutherans, and we mentioned the Presbyterians, the Reformed branch of the family tree. And last week we looked at the Anglican/Episcopal churches. And probably the next place that we would go chronologically would be our Baptist friends. The Baptist churches, the Baptist movement seems to have emerged in the early 1600s, at a time when there's a lot of religious turmoil in England, and what is now the Baptist church seems to have emerged out of that. The term Baptist it's simple, and it's also very complex. It's simple in that they all share a common practice and a common belief about baptism. Namely, that baptism is only for believers and it should only be done by immersion. That is one key distinctive, that baptism should not be for infants and very small kids, and it should not be done by sprinkling or pouring. In general, Baptists would say that your baptism is aligned with and tied to your own profession of faith. That is a sign of your profession of faith. Many other Protestants would look at it a little bit differently. I think I'm right on it, but we'll find out when we get there, when we get to the other side of the river. But that is the one thing that is distinctive, that is unifying about all Baptists. The mode of baptism and who can and should be baptized. But the term Baptist is also very complex because there are so many different types of Baptists. There are so many different types of Baptists. The largest religious body the largest Protestant religious body in the United States right now is the Southern Baptist Convention. 13 million members, give or take a little bit. Then there's the National Baptist Convention, primarily African American body, that is 8 million roughly. Then there are missionary Baptists, many of whom are also part of the Southern Baptist Convention. Free Will Baptists, Primitive Baptists, Landmark Baptists, Independent Baptists. You will see Bible Baptist churches, Reformed Baptists. It's just trying to make sense of all of the different types of Baptist churches for someone who is not Baptist is confusing. And then there's also Cooperative Baptist Fellowship. So what do we do with all of these? First, particularly in the South, and really be true all over the country, if you see a Baptist church on a street corner and you don't know what body it belongs to, probably the safest bet, if you had to guess, would be the Southern Baptist Convention. The Southern Baptist Convention is not a denomination technically. It sort of is, but it is more of an association rather than a denomination. A denomination is there's more connectivity between the churches. One of the Baptist conventions, you don't have the connectivity between the churches. The churches are more autonomous. So, if we're going to look at Baptists just a little bit more about who they are and what they believe, there are two or three things which seem to have issues upon which Baptist churches do differ. Probably the biggest one of these is predestination. That free will versus predestination. Arminianism versus Calvinism. So your free will Baptists believe in free will. Arminianism, there is no predestination, and also you can lose your salvation. You can walk away. That's your free will Baptists. But there are also Reformed Baptists who are very strongly predestinarian, who are in some respects fairly close to being, say, Presbyterian Church in America, except that they won't baptize infants. You got Primitive Baptists, also very, very strongly predestinarian, and the Primitive Baptists are interesting in that they will not use instruments in their worship. All of their singing is a cappella. If you ever had the chance to hear a Primitive Baptist choir sing, oh, they are good. The Southern Baptist Convention seems to be sort of divided over the issue of predestination and free will, but most of them would believe that once you are saved, you cannot lose your salvation. Baptists do tend to disagree. Well, another fault line would be over what version of the Bible to use. There are some that are very strongly King James only. Free will Baptists are primarily King James, Primitive Baptist King James. There's a Bible Baptist Church which would certainly be King James. In the Southern Baptist Convention, you use your NIV or ESV along with your King James. Something else with Baptists which will set them apart. Again, I'm not saying right or wrong, but just things that identify them. Most branches of the faith use the term sacrament to refer to baptism and communion. In my own tribe, we use the term sacrament. Baptist churches prefer to use the term ordinance. Ordinance as in it's a rite of the church, and it is an ordinance of the church. So in most Baptist churches, they will recognize two ordinances, as they put it: baptism and communion. However, there are some Baptist churches which will add in a third ordinance. Free will Baptists, many of them practice foot washing, and the same is true for many Primitive Baptist churches. So they will add in a third ordinance. When I was in South Carolina, there was someone down there in the Conference Board of Ordained Ministry who was famous for asking people in theology and doctrine interviews to be ordained to defend foot washing as a sacrament. It's an interesting question. So Baptists, they are the largest of the Protestant bodies in the United States right now. They do tend to be, but the vast majority of them are pretty conservative theologically. And the Southern Baptist Convention made waves back earlier this summer in expelling Saddleback for having a woman as one of their pastors on their pastoral staff. That made national headlines and probably not the sort of news that you want. Baptists, like I said, they do tend to be pretty conservative. Not all of them. There is the Cooperative Baptist Fellowship, which are primarily Baptists that have left other Baptist fellowships or conventions because they are more moderate or progressive. One last thing to mention is Baptist churches are congregational. My own tribe, we Methodists, we're connectional. That's just who we are, how we operate. We are a connectional church. The Baptist churches are not. Each church has a high degree of autonomy in how they operate and who they call as their minister. So that is the Baptist. And well, one other thing that I will mention, that is, Baptist churches do tend to place a very high value on evangelism and your personal profession of faith. That is not something that is unique to them, but it's an emphasis. It's not like other churches don't value evangelism and don't place a high value on your personal profession of faith when you accepted Jesus. But this is something they emphasize more. When you make your first profession of faith, when you accept Jesus, and taking the gospel to others, whether it's your neighbor down the street or people in other parts of the world. Baptists have always been big about that. Well, except for primitive Baptism, like I said, they're a little unusual in that they are so predestinarian. But anyway, that's a look at our Baptist kin. And I say this with a disclaimer that, like I do each week, I'm not a Baptist, and I disagree with them on some things, agree with them on many things, and in what I say, I make no judgment or critique. I'm just trying to describe and compare and contrast. So with that, have a great rest of your Wednesday, and next week I think I'll probably be looking at the Quakers next week. All right, y'all have a great day.